I spoke about my experience with drugs and how there are similarities to the drug-induced highs and what enlightenment is actually like. And as I was listening to the video, all I could hear myself saying is like, oh yeah, you can get close to enlightenment with drugs, blah, blah, blah. But there was one important other way that I had the same feeling or the same experience, and many other people, like I've listened to many other people, it's when you have a near-death experience. So if you're in an accident, or a car almost hits you, or a car hits you and you survive, or like as you have the accident you think it's more severe than it is. So I've had many near-death experiences. One of the most dramatic ones was I used to race go-karts, so I had a rather fast go-kart, and we'd race on proper go-kart tracks, so I could go 100 k's an hour with this go-kart. So if you have an accident, the accident is rather severe, so it's a bit more dangerous than normal go-karting where you just bump into each other. And one thing led to the other, and a person behind me wanted to overtake me on a certain side, and I tried to get out of the way. So as we were both moving to the same side, he hit me at full speed from behind. So it wasn't my fault. He shouldn't have done that. Like he was acting irresponsibly. Doesn't make any difference because I had a severe accident where he hit the back of my go-kart, and I could feel the impact of the go-kart and didn't know what happened, and next minute I just got smacked in the face. So I had a massive helmet on, obviously, like a motorbike helmet, and what happened is he hit the back of me, took off, and the slap to the head was the tire of his back wheel. So he jumped a meter almost to then smack me with the back wheel on the helmet. And as I got smacked, I got knocked out. And so there was just this brief second of getting hit by the go-kart, seeing this tire, and I recognized the tire. That's all I could, it didn't make sense to me why there's a tire there, but I saw the tire, and then I was knocked out. So in that moment, I was 15 at the time, I distinctly remember the situation, because there was a split second where I just put one and one together, and I thought, this guy has just broken my neck, so I'm dead. I just got hit by a go-kart going about probably, let's say, 40-50 kilometers an hour in the head. So in that instance, I thought, I'm dead. This is how you break your neck, this is how you die. And to my surprise, it was a feeling of release. It was really peaceful, it was really calm. I completely accepted that this is the end of my life. I accepted that this is how I'm gonna die. It would have been a spectacular way to die, actually. Way too young now. Anyway, there was this moment of, just before you're going to sleep, the release, the relaxation, everything is good. There's no worries, there's no yearning for life. There was just acceptance of my fate. So I assumed I was going to die. Luckily I survived. I was unconscious for a little while, but I was actually sort of minorly injured, so it wasn't that bad. But when you hit your head and you knock yourself out, which I've done plenty of times in my life, probably a minimum of 20 times in my life, I'd say. As a child, I knocked myself out. And I've also had other experiences where I thought I was going to die quite frequently, because I have allergic asthma, and it was actually more psychosomatic. So when my mother would stress me out, I would have an asthma attack. Not immediately, but like if there's like a long phase of arguments or fighting or tension, I would eventually get worse and worse and worse, and it would then culminate to be a full-blown asthma attack. And when you have an asthma attack, like you literally cannot breathe. So you're wheezing and you can't talk, you can't walk, you can't do anything. You're just going and you're sucking in the air because you think you can't breathe in, but you're actually failing to breathe out as well, which I learned because I blew up my lungs once and had severe pain because I tore all the muscles on between the ribs. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That I probably had 5, 6, 7 asthma attacks, probably more. Anyway, there was so I'd have an asthma spray. So if I'd feel wheezy, I'd take my asthma spray, and then sometimes it didn't work. So I tried taking the asthma spray, but it was getting worse and worse. So you get nervous and you start breathing, and then you're trying to communicate, but you can't scream, you can't do anything. So sometimes I was in bed trying to go tell someone, but I couldn't move out of the bed. Or you have a low amount of oxygen in your brain, so you don't quite think clearly. You sort of accept your death for some reason. And there was a few times where I thought, there's nothing they will be able to do. Like, I'm suffocating, 10 minutes away from the hospital, and not breathing for 10 minutes, you will die. I didn't, so luckily the doctors always saved me, but I think the first one was probably when I was 10 years old, and I distinctly remember going, I'm dying, I can't breathe, this is the end. And at 10 years old, it was okay, I just accepted it. And I tried to talk to people about this, that every time I really had a serious brush with death, I was not, I expected the Hollywood version of almost dying, where you have all the memories from your past life flash in front of you. But it wasn't like that at all. It was, okay, this just happened. Everything seems like it's going in slow motion because you're super aware, you're super in the moment, you're super present. So that's why it's very similar to enlightenment, and it's very easy for you to accept what is. And what is your immediate death. And it's okay. And this is something that always confused me. Why is that my response? I was I always wanted to be a fighter, not a fighter as in, I want to beat you up, but I wanted to be, the underdog that succeeds. And then suddenly, as soon as I'm faced with death, I just go oh, okay then. So this is something that I could never make sense of before. And as I was talking about my the similarities between being super high on drugs, on chemically induced enlightenment, more or less, I've had this experience equally, more intensely actually, when I was faced with my own mortality. So most people, again, what the gurus say, or what some YouTuber that claims they're enlightened saying that that's usually not true. It's something that you need to believe in. It's something that you need to trust them with. It's something that, it's always something made up. However, when I listen to people talk about near-death experiences and what the peace and the tranquility and the being on the other side, or what they thought heaven was, or God was, or that feeling, that is enlightenment. So it's the same thing. So their descriptions to me seemed oh yeah, this is a nice way of describing what Krishnamurti's radical change actually means. So he never talked about what the other side is like. For a good reason, because it will confuse you more. And it's a very humble, very subtle change. It's just you change the way you see your own life. So you are in heaven, but you're still living in the same world, you know. So it's the way that you see your world around you. Before it's ego focused, so you have a very tunnel vision world view. And then as soon as you free yourself from the ego, which is up to you to do, like nobody can help you with that other than you. You're the one that's holding on to the idea, the added idea of yourself. This is what I'm talking about. So it's just an idea that you're including in your life. So when you don't include this idea in your life anymore, you see your world in a very different light, and everything is relaxed and peaceful, and you can accept everything as it is. It doesn't mean that, you know, like, I'm gonna let people walk over, like you don't let people walk over you or anything like that, but you can deal with dramatic situations way easier because your ego doesn't overreact about what's going on. You just look at what is and that's it, and then you move forward, you float on into life. So yeah, that was one important part I was missing when talking about like our similarities, or when people are actually describing this mind state that Krishnamurti is talking about. Like he's talking about what you need to face, and he never talks about what you then acquire. He says total freedom, he says total liberty, freedom of the mind, radical change, because it is a radical change. And it's just freeing yourself from the mental prison that the ego is keeping you in. And yeah, so that was important too. It's not just drugs, there's all kinds of different ways. You can also have this experience in like at a concert, for instance, or at church. It's spiritual experiences where you are involved with your surroundings and you get caught up in the energy around you. And this is a spiritual experience that then we attribute to whatever, this artist, this god, this skateboarder or whatever, but it's actually inside you all along. So the freedom you then are privileged to see, that freedom is always there because you're actively keeping yourself imprisoned by keeping the idea of the ego. And that's... yeah, so thank you very much for listening, and talk to you soon. One love.